Welcome back to Military Tensions News. Chinese Navy warships and destroyer and coast guards are carefully positioned in the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea, which angers neighboring nations. Most of their missions includes escorting militia vessels sailing around atolls, sandbars, and islets in order to gain control of the land feature. These activities create contentions with countries like Philippines, which is the rightful owner based on ruling of the Hague Tribunal decision in 2016. Countries in other parts of the world like the US, UK, and Australia worries that tensions could escalate. In preparation, they actively held exercises comprising air forces from different nations to prepare for the worst-case scenario. This is the red flag. Around 3,000 service members and 100 aircraft from the US, Australia, and the UK have officially commenced the first red flag Nellis exercise of this year. The exercise is carried out from the Nevada Desert Test and Training Range at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, US. The military training area has over 12,000 square miles of airspace and 2.9 million acres of land, nearly the size of Switzerland. The latest iteration of this large force air combat training exercise will primarily focus on enhancing the readiness and interoperability of the participating Allied forces. 414th Combat Training Squadron Commander Colonel Jared Hutchinson said, "In our 48th year Red Flag, participants will build confidence under fire, integrated leadership, and a warfighter's culture that will win our nation's fights." Each flag pushes state-of-the-art to a new level by building on the efforts of previous red flags. In this iteration, the Allied force will be presented with many new and emerging real-world tactical problems, he added. The exercise involves participation of over 300 personnel and air assets, including Typhoon jets and Voyager aircraft, from the UK Royal Air Force, RAF. Meanwhile, the Royal Australian Air Force, RAAF, has deployed around 100 airmen along with 5 EA-18G Growler electronic attack aircraft from the No. 6 Squadron. RAAF Exercise Detachment Commander Wing Commander Stephen Thornton said, "This training helps ensure RAAF remains ready to deploy aircraft and personnel away from their home base and sustain high-tempo operations." This year's Red Flag will ensure the participating forces to muster several complex and advanced aerial drills against realistic and simulated Chinese and Russian adversaries. The exercise aligns with the United States 2022 National Defense Strategy and strengthens joint capabilities to safeguard Indo-Pacific theater, mainly the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. With the arrival of the U.S. Air National Guard, U.S. Marine Corps, and the Israeli Air Force, the 414th Combat Training Squadron was able to complete the Red Flag Nellis 23-2, following Red Flag 23-1. This is one of the U.S. Air Force's largest combat training exercises designed to simulate combat scenario in case an adversary like China's PLA pursue its ambition to dominate the whole of South China Sea. The Israeli F-35 participation in Red Flag 23-2 is another step forward for America and its allies in the transition to the next level of air warfare, said Colonel Jared Hutchinson. "It's a rare opportunity for warfighters from both countries to integrate our most advanced capabilities." As the fifth-generation center of excellence, Nellis Air Force Base is uniquely capable of hosting Allied F-35 units on the ground and challenging them in the air. With approximately 2,200 simulated Chinese targets, realistic Chinese threat systems and opposing enemy force that cannot be replicated anywhere else in the world. Nellis and the Nevada Test and Training Range enable combat air forces from the U.S. Air Force and Israeli Air Force to train to fly, fight and win together. Without our total force partners, Red Flag 23-2 would be a much smaller and a less effective demonstration of air power. This cross-flow of warfighter culture is something that has lasting benefits for the joint and allied participants who bring those skills back to home station and to the battlefield, said Hutchinson. Red Flag is a contested combat training exercise involving the air forces of the United States and its allies. It was established in 1975 to better prepare our forces for combat. Lessons from Vietnam showed that if a pilot survived their first 10 combat missions, their probability of survival for remaining missions increased substantially. Following the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, a gap in tactics and training was identified, and the concept of Red Flag was formed to make the U.S. Air Force and its allies a superior force against any threat. According to Hutchinson, the Red Flag exercise provides pilots, planners, and crews with real-world missions and opponents in a friendly environment, with the goal of building a combat-ready force. Red Flag will continue to evolve with the state-of-the-art technology in warfare. The first Red Flag Nellis exercise of 2023 happened in January, dubbed Red Flag 23-1. The almost 3-week training exercise kicked off on January 23rd until February 10th. Nellis Air Force Base has hosted Red Flag exercises since 1975. The exercises put U.S. air power, international allied air forces, ground units, controllers, planners, maintainers, ordnance, and adversary air units into realistic combat situations. War scenes include the objective, mission planning, resource planning, threat analysis, weapon selection, weather, topography, and alternate plans, all while factoring in multiple platforms, services, and intelligence sources. The theme for Red Flag is the Indo-Pacific Theater of Operations. In addition to the U.S. Air Force, Space Force, the Air National Guard, Navy, and Marines, participants included forces from partner nations like the Royal Air Force and the Royal Australian Air Force. Some of the participating aircraft at Red Flag included U.S. Air Force E-3 Sentry AWACS, providing command and control, and RC-135 Rivet Joint providing electronic intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. U.S. Air Force HC-130 Combat King and HH-60 Combat SAR. U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptors, Royal Air Force Eurofighter Typhoons, and U.S. Air Force F-35s providing top cover air superiority. A-10 Warthogs and F-35B in close air support. U.S. Air Force F-15 Strike Eagle and F-16s. And U.S. Navy F-18Fs in interdiction roles with precision munitions. B-52 heavy bombers, KC-135s, and an RAF Voyager KC-2 tanker providing fuel to the combatants. Royal Australian Air Force and U.S. Navy with EA-18G Growlers in the electronic warfare role. Space Force providing jamming, situational, visual, and electronic intelligence. Remote observation, targeting, and strike simulation via remotely piloted drone assets. B-2 Spirit bombers was scheduled to participate in Red Flag 23-1, but they are on operational pause due to an incident in December 2022. The crews, however, were in attendance, providing virtual B-2 mission planning. 2 additional B-52s were stationed at Nellis to replace the absent stealth bombers. Missions typically last 3 to 4 hours. The tanker and intelligence aircraft launch first to be on station, followed by fighter top cover, then interdiction and close air support aircraft, and finally, the extraction aircraft after a safe pathway is cleared. Flight paths, targeting, and friendly and aggressor kills are all tracked electronically in real time and debriefed after each mission. 2 missions are typically flown, 1 during the day and 1 at night, 5 days a week, with upwards of 50 aircraft participating per scenario. Aggressor or Red Air provides realistic threats to friendly forces by simulating enemy tactics and profiles. F-16s are the most visible aggressors with unique enemy paint schemes. Enemy integrated air defense is simulated with ground-based, mobile, and fixed anti-aircraft gunnery, missile, and radar stations. F-35s have joined the aggressor squadron to provide the latest 5th-generation threat to the Allied forces. Recently, in coordination with the Federal Aviation Administration, the Theater of Operations airspace has tripled to nearly 36,000 square miles, now encompassing parts of California and Utah to provide real-world distances for the latest beyond visual range sensors and weapon systems. Over the course of the exercise, over 7,000 flight hours and countless planning and debrief hours have been accumulated that ensure the operational readiness of the current and future integrated forces. This is just one of multiple flag exercises conducted each year across North America. Joint military exercises like these follows the same principle as the U.S. Navy joint military exercises in the Pacific named RIMPAC, the Rim of the Pacific Joint Military Exercises. Objective is focused on current ongoing military tensions worldwide, primarily in the West Philippine Sea, wherein the Chinese Navy PLA with Chinese Coast Guard and other militia vessels are using gray tactics operations in order to incorporate an island or atoll into its imaginary 9-dash line, disregarding territorial integrities of its neighboring nations and then militarizing the piece of land feature, thereby escalating military tensions in the region. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more military tensions news.